Well, and a very good morning as we go back into the program again. Happy Monday, and it is the fifth day of the month of the February. My name is OLAYOMI Koiki, and we're just into the first week as we remember so many atrocities on the Yoruba land. Our life is no longer worth staying in Nigeria, and that is the reason why we're asking for self-determination. As we are still into the first part of the program this morning. Share the program, invite your friends, and let us continue the campaign. Otigbati Abagba Yoruba Nation. There will never be peace between us and the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the international community, especially the United Kingdom, that decided to merge us with a crazy country called Nigeria. Nigeria will collapse. It will collapse in our own lifetime. And whether you like it or not, Nigeria is sinking. Mo kí gbogbo alẹ́ nǹkan sí ẹ já kí olóyè Ìgbòho náà. Share the program and let us discuss again this morning. Èdè ló pé ọ̀sẹ̀ kan tí wọ́n pa àwọn ọba méjì nílẹ̀ Yorùbá. History will remember all the politicians that refuse to protect our lives. History will remember as many of these politicians and Yoruba elite that refuse to listen to the call of the Yoruba people nígbà tí wọ́n kígbe pé àjọṣepọ̀ wa ti Nigeria ó ti mẹ́hẹ, and it is the best in the interest of everybody to come back on the round table and discuss the future of this crazy country. Thank you, Nigeria. Mumba Moitide. That was the former Chief of Army Staff, General Tiwa Danjuma, warning us, telling us that Nigeria is going to kill every single one of us. Economic-wise, Nigeria is dead. Spiritually, there's nothing in Nigeria, it is gone. But many Nigerians are still living in bubbles, hoping that one day you will have one of the leaders that will bring back the glory of Nigeria. Mokenti Etidarapomawa, Karo, and a good morning once again, as we are now fully into the broadcast. Remember to share, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to take us into one more, then we play the anthem, and then we will go into the program. This was Uncle Bola Ige. He died on the watch of the former president Obasanjo almost years now. No inquiries. Nobody told us what happened to him, how he died. Yet everybody wants justice for those that just died recently. You will never get justice for anyone in Nigeria until we sink the ship called Nigeria. And I say good morning and welcome once again. Self-determination. Why is it different from running a normal politics of Eba and Amala that you call in Nigeria? That is the discussion this morning. Without Yoruba nation, there will never be peace in Nigeria. There will be no relationship between us and Nigeria until Nigeria is finally dissolved. Many Nigerians do not want Nigeria to dissolve because they're expecting to be part of the criminal part of the politics called Nigeria, the politics of Eba Namala. It's coming up to 18 minutes past 3 a.m. from London, where I'm doing this transmission from. It is also the 5th day of the month of February. My name is OLAYOMI Koiki, a campaigner for the Yoruba nation self-determination under the able leader of Professor Adebanji Akitoye, and also under the leadership of Chief Dr. Sunday Omadeyemo Igbowosha. Yoruba people, about almost 30 million living in Nigeria. There's so many other numbers around the world, but most importantly, self-determination gives us the right. What right does it give us? This is the discussion this morning, as many people continue to think that because we are asking for our right, we've become either whatever they think in their own opinion and views about Nigeria and us. We are not the only one around the world that are seeking self-determination. It all depends on which part of the globe you're looking at. From each continent around the globe, people are seeking self-determination. Countries have been dissolved, so Nigeria will not be the only country in the world that will collapse. Many of you think it's not going to collapse. It's either there will be war in Nigeria. I have no doubt about it. There will be war, because if peace doesn't come, there will be war. We are not the only one that's going to fight war. There's currently war between the America and Iraqis and Houthis and Yemenis. There's a fight going on between Palestine and Israel. Over 30,000 people have died. There's a war going on between the Sudanese. There's war in Somalia. There's war in Ethiopia. There's a war between Russia and Ukraine. If you don't want a war in Nigeria, speak to your representative to engage those that are seeking the self-determination. The current state of things in Nigeria is no longer holding. The center has collapsed. Abuja collapsed. Lagos has collapsed. The Southwest collapsed. The Northeast collapsed. President Bola Tinubu can no longer even do anything because he's currently not in charge. Self-determination, what does it mean? Sit back and let's enjoy the program in just about a few minutes. Kagbega, 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 Fàyè, ìgbàgbọ́ wa ní pé bàtí bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira, ìkẹjẹ́ ká máa lépa, tẹ̀síwájú fọ̀pọ̀ ire àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ Oòduà dìde, bọ́ sí ipò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ, ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀. Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀. Countries, about 195 countries around the world as at today, according to the United Nations. Countries, borders were changed during the Second and the First World War. Countries were destroyed during the slave trade by the European countries known as the colonial, that destroy what would have been great empires. Countries like India refused to accept the West during the colony. Countries have fought back during the Mau Mau of 1953 in Kenya. Countries like America fought back in 1707. Countries that we are now calling countries have been destroyed with their language, culture. One of the biggest and evil done to mankind that many Nigerians think that we are now the one creating the problems ahead. Rather, we are trying to resolve what has happened during the British Empire. One of the most wicked parts of the world that we are living today, and the history. You want me to remember the history of what took place in the regional that led to the collapse, but you do not want to talk about the evil that the British Empire did around the world for over 200 years. One of the most wicked evil all took place for over 200 years. The British Empire comprised the dominions, the colonies, protector mandates, and other territories ruled or administered by United Kingdom and its predecessor states. Many of you that love Nigeria so much don't even know the evil that the British Empire did on you and myself. At least I have now been able to escape to a better life for the last 2 decades that I've been living in the same country called United Kingdom that created the British rule on us for so many years. We have now been told, and we've been able to see, that history was something that the British Empire refused to allow us to review. The British Empire, as of today, will not apologize to all the crime against humanity that has been committed across the globe. So when you continue to seek and say you want to be a one Nigeria, you are literally saying that you still want to remain under the British colony. What is the colonies? What do we understand by colonies? Some of you wants to talk about just what took place between 1960, but you do not want to talk about what took place prior, before 1960 fraudulent independence that was also negotiated on some terms and conditions by the British Empire. You want us to forget about the slave trade that took away our forefathers, and our forefathers were all killed. Some never made it to this part of the world for sugar cane and all kind of crime against humanity. They were not paid. Our mothers, our great-grandmothers. So when some of you say we should keep Nigeria, you are literally saying we should keep what evil the British Empire did on our forefathers. You think by having this brand called Nigeria is in the best interest of every single one of us. It's not in our best interest. It's only in the best interest of the European countries and those colonial rulers that are still part of the problem we are facing today. Colonialism.
Colonialism.
The policy or practice of acquiring full or partial political control over another country, occupying it with settlers, which is what the Fulanis are doing presently, exploiting, which is what most of you have not been able to enjoy the resources that belongs to you, including myself. We own as many resources in almost every part of Nigeria, but that is no longer something that most of us have enjoyed, and that is why you have remained in a perpetual poverty. Most of you don't even understand the pain that our forefathers had to fight during these
colonialism.
It has become even a mental problem to many of us today, that we are now defending these
colonialism.
Why some of us are fighting to take back the control of our life, to take back our integrity, our identity, our culture. But yet some of you refuse because you're still under
colonialism.
Colonialism is the establishment and the maintenance of one group of people as superior to other peoples. That is why some of you see these Oyinbo people and you think they are superior, because that is what you were told, even though we are 1,000 years ahead of them in civilization before 1500 or the 15th century. When the Portuguese explorer came to our territory, we were already governing ourselves. We were already ahead of looking after women, children, welfare, security, education. We were not in nakedness as we were told. We were already having clothes put on. Listen to some of the music by Fela Anikulapo Kuti during one of his tours in Europe when he talked about wearing clothes. We were the one wearing clothes before the European countries. They were all living in nakedness. Colonialism is still affecting many of you, and that is why you're fighting us back. You think that you can protect these politicians that are under the rules of the colonial government. They are no longer operating as it was back in those days, but it has now been covered up with coated sugar. So when we are talking about colonialism, some of you do not see that because you think that the West, be it the seventh continent of the world, love us so much that you are now defending the barbaric inhumane of what they've done on our life in every capacity. They are not superior against us, and they know that. We have been able to prove that for those of us that have lived with them in the last 2 decades, 3, 4, 5, 6 decades. We've proved that in medicine, in engineering, in science. We've proved to the same people that we are still the same humans that they met during or before the slave trade. We have compete with them in every part of whatever they might talk of. We are still the brain behind holding the world today, but most of you don't know that because of the colonial mentality that is currently affecting your medulla oblongata. Many of you don't even understand the meaning of colonialism. You wake up every day and you love that name, Nigeria. What is Nigeria? It's part of the crime against humanity. So this morning, I'm going to educate you again like I do all the time, because some of you need help. You need to go back and ask how your forefathers were dealt with during the colonial rule. But who are those behind all these? The British Empire dealt with us just like the Belgium, the French, the Portuguese. Many of them created the reason why we are where we are today, where you cannot boast of even the basic things of life. We were exploited, and we are still exploited today. That is why some of you don't even understand why Baba Akintoye is saying the longer we stay in Nigeria, the longer you'll be exploited. Many of you are well read. Some of you are not. That does not mean that you are not qualified.
Colonialism.
What is colonialism in a simple term? For the layman, just the basic. Colonialism is defined as control by one power over a dependent area of people. It occurs when one nation subjugates another. I will explain that. We were subjugated. And when we are now coming out to say, this is not right, this shouldn't be happening, this should be reviewed, you are still one of those that is fighting back to protect this evil that is committed, still committed, that has been committed on humankind like ours. A well-civilized people like Yorubas are now in a complete chaos, and we cannot get our bearings because some of our people, from the poor to the old to the elite, still refuse to support the self-determination campaign. To them, we should manage the crime scene as the legend of our time said, and I quote, the late Jeremiah Obafemi Awolowo made it clear that we should never forget who we are, because he was part of those that came to UK during the negotiation of what is now called the fraudulent Nigeria that many of us were told is the best interest for us. And he said, and I quote, Nigeria is not a nation, so why are we trying to keep it as a nation? If Nigeria is not a nation, why then are Nigerians, I mean the Yoruba people, trying to keep it as a nation? Because your king is telling you that. So do you think that your king, some of them understand what we are talking about? Some of them are part of the crime scene. Some of your kings today are part of the crime scene called Nigeria. Some of them are still under the puppet of the same colonialism that we are talking about. Some of your politicians are still part of those subjugating you. Do you think that because people like these politicians come up and brand Nigeria, and then that makes you think that Nigeria is a country? So are you now saying that those that negotiated Nigeria, that stated it clearly, we've heard about, people talk about it. So even though you might not agree with me that this is coming from the legend of Obafemi Awolowo, but we have evidence to back it. And that evidence stated clearly, without mixing words, that Nigeria, that many of us are now trying to protect. I'm talking about people that are well qualified to understand the truth. People that should now be standing up at this junction. Those that say they are well read, either through as lawyers, And I can mention names. We're talking about people like Dele Farotimi will still tell us that Nigeria is still a country. They know that there's no country called Nigeria. Femi Falana knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Wole Soyinka knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Afe Babalola knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. All these individuals, and many of them across board, Alakija knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Otedola knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Okeowo knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Dele Momodu knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Bola Shagaya knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Bode George knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. Even Tinubu knows that there's nothing called Nigeria. But these are all part of the elite that are now defending Nigeria one way or the other, telling us to play into the fake politics of Amala Aneba. The politics that everybody knows that it is not in the favor of us, because the real identity of who we are has been removed. And until we are able to collapse this contraction, where we can go back and redetermine our lives, we will all still be subjugated under the colonial rule. Do we have any evidence from any of these politicians in the past talking about Nigeria either being one country or not? By the time Bola Tinubu will also complete his own tenure, he would then come out and do the same thing that we heard from also one of those that told us after he left office that Nigeria is not a country. So if Nigeria is not a country, why then are we defending Nigeria? We are defending Nigeria because we love people that created the havoc on our lives. Let's listen to this.
We've been having this conversation about the unity of Nigeria. And I reflect back at some of the prominent statements made by some of our founding leaders. And I feel that probably this will help us to have a conversation on the Nigerian unity. I just brought four, not to bore you. First, and I quote, not my statement. Nigeria is not a nation. It's a mere geographical expression. There are no Nigerians in the same sense as there are English, Welsh, or French. The word Nigerian is merely a distinctive appellation to distinguish those who live within the boundaries of Nigeria from those who do not. This is accredited to Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the former Prime Minister of the Western region. The second one, and I quote, "It is true that we politicians always delight in talking loosely about the unity of Nigeria. 60 years ago, there was no country called Nigeria. What is now Nigeria consisted of several large and small communities, all of which were different in their outlooks and beliefs. The advent of the British and that of Western education has not materially altered the situation, and the many and varied communities have not knit themselves into a composite unit." This is accredited to Sir Amado Bello, former Premier of the Northern Region. The third, and I quote, "Since 1914, the British government has been trying to make Nigeria into one country. But the Nigerian people themselves are historically different in their backgrounds, in their religious beliefs and customs, and do not show themselves any sign of willingness to unite. The Nigerian unity is only a British intention for the country." This is...
Good morning to my beautiful sister, Auntie Ifagbemileke. Good morning, Mrs. Elizabeth Adesonya Ibukuni from Orile-ede Yoruba. Good morning to you, Mr. Adeniji Ganiu. Good morning, Mr. Femi Joshua Akinribuye. Good morning to all the Redeemed Christian Church of God, especially those of you that are watching me quietly and you're sending your prayers to me from around the world. I am receiving your messages on a daily basis. Good morning to all the Muslims. I am not fighting for your religion. I care less about whatever religion you practice. I am fighting to stop what the British Empire, the colonials, what they've done on our life. That is the fight in front of me. I care less whether you practice any religion. I care less whether you even practice the Yoruba religion, whether you are atheist, whether you are Hindu. What I'm more concerned is to make sure that we educate you enough to know the difference between the politics of Ebanamala and the difference between self-determination, which is not a crime. Good morning, Mr. Frank Dudu. Good morning, Mr. Femi Joshua. Good morning, Mr. Alade Shakiru. Good morning to those of you that have joined us on all the platforms. Ganiloyede, Omagiri, Ifagbe, and I love what I'm putting on. This is done by those called Omoluabi Apparel. Shout out to those of you that have joined us on the Mixlr. It's been a while that we've connected on the platform. We hope to be joining more of that. Please share the program. Akede Yoruba. Good morning to all the Koikimedia team. Like I said in my broadcast during the Sunday, we need as many money to be able to run the operation of the media. And good morning to Otumba Oluwashino. Shout out to those of you. Keke Okus. Good morning to those of you on the Koikimedia and all the platforms across this morning as we continue our quest for Yoruba Nation self-determination. Shout out to you on the X. Good morning, Ayomi Kondamiju. And you also went further to say, good evening, Brother Koiki. The people that we are preaching Yoruba Nation to don't even understand when the Yoruba rise is before the British rowed their boats and ships to the shores of what is today Nigeria. I really don't know what we have to do for them to learn and listen to the truth. But Yoruba Nation, I stand. Thank you so much for putting that out. Shout out to many of us that are still faithful to our leaders. Shout out to many of us that remain loyal for the fact that even though there's been so much when it comes to those that wants to destroy the truth, and the truth shall always prevail regardless of how much people want to distort it. Shout out to all the medias that are working back to back to enlighten and educate many of us. Shout out to independent individuals that are working behind the scene. And as we continue our quest, do not allow anyone to intimidate you in Nigeria, not even the government, not the DSS, not the military. If they refuse to sit on the round table, there will be a war which will eventually collapse Nigeria. The war will be painful. Many people will die. I care less, because at the end of the day, if peace does not reign, we should go and prepare for the worst case scenario. Shout out to my beautiful family. Shout out to my mom. And as I continue the education, please remember to share the program. That is the only thing you can do. And I hope that, as we say all the time, we are not perfect. We are not perfect, but we will bring down Nigeria. Thank you so much once again as I continue to receive these very powerful, images. Some of you have seen it. We've posted it already. I'll be posting it again. This was produced and sent to me by a pastor. I'm not going to mention their name because it is not meant to be. But they've been doing these beautiful flyers that you'll be seeing anytime soon. I've posted it on our platform. In case you come across it, just share it. That is the only thing you can do. So thank you so much once again. These are quiet listeners pushing their own side with prayers. We are fighting the demonic part of Nigeria to destroy it. Okay, I've been told not to even use the word destroy because Nigeria has destroyed itself already. My job is to make sure that it collapses as quickly as possible. Some of you have asked me, when are we likely to get Yoruba Nation? Well, the first thing is, how soon are we ready in terms of the millions of Yoruba people that still do not understand that they are under the slave trade of the European countries that created what is now called Africa. Many of you do not even know that the borders of Africa was destroyed in 1884 during the Berlin Conference. So today, our job as campaigners, I am not an agitator. I am a campaigner for the self-determination. My job is to make sure that we keep roaring. We keep crying out. We keep shouting. We have not done anything to warrant any arrest of an independent self-determination campaigner. There's so much going on in Nigeria that terrorists are now being integrated back into the government. We've heard about Ndeba in Kano. These are thugs that have been integrated back into the Kano State Police. So what should we around DSS or security agency looking for people like us, because we are campaigning and enlightening and waking the spirit in the heart of many of our people. So we're still going to go back again into the program. Remember, I am just one out of many Yoruba people that are fighting back to back to make sure that the name Nigeria will not be something that will be mentioned as history continue to ask questions. Questions about what happened during the slave trade, questions why we should keep that contraction called Nigeria, and many other questions. As we say all the time, Yoruba nation is the solution to all our problems. We've just heard from the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, that told us clearly that it is the British agenda to keep one Nigeria because it favors them, but it will never favor any one of you. Good morning to you, Yemi Fatoke, all the way in Lagos. Shout out to wherever you are around the world. Shout out to every single one of you. So let's come back again quickly and continue with the education on this platform. What we do best on this platform is we educate you so that you are up to date. When somebody asks you, what are you fighting for? What is the reason why you want this? You can always tell them it is because it is in the interest of who we are to go out of Nigeria. Nigeria is not a country. It is never going to work. And whatever your plan to make it to work, it will fail. If you like, pray. From now till thy kingdom come, it will fail. If you like, continue to promote Nigeria because you love the football that is currently being played, we will still say Nigeria will fail. Shout out to my brother, Tokyo 778, and many of you. I will continue to mention your name, but let me continue with the presentation. Bear with me. I just want to start another platform. As many platforms that can go live is good for the program and it's good for humanity. So that is exactly what I am doing right now. So, and I guess we should now be on the Facebook of Koikimedia. So good morning once again. Bear with me. Let me bring the charger a little bit up because that way we have everything set. And remember, it is still 4 o'clock in the morning and people are sleeping upstairs. So there will be a lot of English in this program because what I'm reading is coming from English. Shout out to you, Owolabi Aziz, all the way from Dubai. Good morning to you all. So let's go back. I will appreciate many of you again as we go into the program. My name is OLAYOMI KOIKI. Let's go back to colonialism. But I'm going to go backward to British Empire quickly. It began with overseas possession. So the British started taking over possession that doesn't belong to them. They knew that these were not their own and they were using it. Good morning, Mrs. Eunice Ladikbo, and welcome to the program, those of you that are joining us. And good morning to those of you, I did not even start the mixed LR. Can you imagine? And we already lost almost an hour into the program on that, but that's fine. Please always remind me if you're watching me and you consider one of my platforms is not on, because sometimes my backup team might be sleeping, even though I set it up, but I didn't click the start on it. But that's not too bad. They still have about an hour, and we've done 49 minutes already. The British Empire. It began with overseas possession and trading post. Nigeria was a trading post, and it still remained a trading post. It was established by England, which is where I'm currently residing. in the late 16th and the early 17th centuries. At its height in the 19th century and the early 20th century, Nigeria was merged in the 19th century, and that is why we call it the 1914 amalgamation, 1st of January 1914. Nigeria is now 110 years old as at this month or this year. It was the largest empire in history. Several empires in human history have been contended for the largest of all time, depending on a definition and the mode of measurement. Possible ways of measuring size include area, population, economy, power. Of this area is the most commonly used. So the British were able to acquire a lot of territories around the globe. Good morning to my beautiful handsome brother, TSG. Nigeria is a security consultant that resided there in UK. Thank you so much for joining this morning. The British Empire was one of the largest empire in the history. Many countries the British were able to capture, not through negotiation, but through war. Guns, bullets, bombs. They killed many of those that disagree with them during those era. And there's so many that we can talk about, from the Mau Mau in Kenya to some of the protests that took place in Enugu and those that happened in Lagos during the period when we were asking for our rights. Bear with me. One of my laptop is not charged and it's telling me the power is going to go off. Not sure why it's not charged. Bear with me, please, because it's already telling me the power is going to shut down. Just consider the light coming on. Good morning once again. Because this is the only way we can educate people and we can get out of Nigeria as quickly as possible. The longer tabakwe, you are not giving us money and you're not distributing the message and you want Nigeria to break. Don't listen to people like Reno or Mokiri. These are criminals that have enjoyed so much out of Nigeria, and it's going to continue to tell you. Don't listen to people like Dele Farotimi. These are individuals that are confused.com. Dele Farotimi doesn't know what he wants. Don't listen to Dele Momodu. Dele Momodu is enjoying Nigeria as much as he can. And don't listen to all of them because they have nothing to offer. Okay, what's going on with my charger? Why is it not charging? I'm not too sure why I'm not getting any power into the laptop this morning. Something is not right. Okay, I can see the light now because I don't live in Nigeria. And there's no reason why my light that is on. Yeah. So laptop is charging now. So let's go into it because good morning, Masbi, and welcome to the program. The volume. So I'm not speaking as much very high, but I can always use the external mic. Hopefully that would help a little bit. So let's move swiftly. This program's end probably about 5 o'clock, so I can go back and do the last an hour on the bed. I want us to listen to this. The British Empire was the largest in history. And for a century was foremost the global power. By 1913, a year before the fraudulent 1914 amalgamation, the British Empire held sway over 412 million people. Prince Niyi Oyewole, good morning, sir. By 1913, a year before the 1914 amalgamation, the British Empire swayed over 412 million people. It was a very powerful empire. If we break away from Nigeria now, it will be in the best interest of the indigenous people. (23% of the world population at the time). By 1920, the British Empire covered 35.5 million kilometers. That's about 13.7 million square miles. 24% of the Earth's total land area. As a result, its constitutional, legal, linguistic, and cultural legacy is widespread. That is why today, while most countries did not take as much of what the British brought to them, countries like China refused to go in line with what the British were spreading. But Africa took everything that the British brought on us. And that is why today, when you look at the China, or when you look at the India, let's use India, Parliament, their dress mode does not reflect the British. But when you look at Nigeria, we still dress like the Europeans are still living with us, because that is what and part of what they spread during the 1913. So while some of you want me to fight our brothers and sisters that have their own issues just like we have ours, you do not want to remember that the British spread that hatred. They spread that discord among different ethnic indigenous people. We are not tribes. We are indigenous people. And that's why there will never be peace in the contraction called Nigeria until we break it away from it. One minute past 4 a.m. Today is the 5th of February, 2024. At the peak of his power, it was described as the empire on which the sun never set, as the sun was always shining on at least one of his territories. Let me explain that to you a little bit, to my understanding, what I've just read. At the peak of the British Empire, we are told, all right, something is not right. This is not charging. Sorry, what's going on with this laptop this morning? It's gonna shut down if I don't charge it now. Oh God. What's going on this morning? Why is it not charging? Maybe not, because this is more important. If not, I'm going to lose my broadcast. on one of my laptop. I don't know why it's not charging. It looks like I'm having a problem with this charger. So these things are getting hold. At the peak of the British Empire, we are now told that it was an empire which the sun never set. Let's talk about the phrase. The phrase, the empire on which the sun never set, has been used to describe certain global empires that were so territorially extensive that it seems as though it was always daytime in at least one part of their territory. So if, as at the time of the British Empire, if Africa was in the nighttime, the other part was in the afternoon, the other part was in the morning. That is why we never saw development during the British Empire rule in Africa, mostly in the southwest from Ghana to Nigeria. Rather than invest and make what becomes their territory captured through firepower, they did rail line from where our resources are and took that railway all the way down to the port and then moved the resources out. And that was what they were able to do perfectly for a very long time. Though they had a lot of fight along the route, especially with the Ijebus, where I came from, because we fought the British for trying to use part of our territory to move resources out of the Yoruba land. As the sun was always shining on at least one of its territories, even though some of you are living in denial that the British has given us independence. And I do ask you, what part of independence are you talking about? That is the lie that the British is telling us. All right, something is not right. I hope this thing is charging. It's the reason why we say invest in the media. Some of you don't want to think. You're waiting for somebody else to invest in us. I'm not sure why we're not getting enough juice on this. There's nothing I can do to that. I've tried my best. Invest in the media. Invest in the media. If you invest in tobacco, if you invest in lorry, you're waiting for BBC to come and tell you all this. You think BBC will tell you all this? If one low can invest cash in conservation, so if I can't continue the program, I'm going to shut down that one because it's stressing me already going back and forth like this. I don't know what is going on. I tried that and I don't know. So something seems not to be right. So I'm not sure whether it's the charger. So if not, we just end the broadcast because it's already stressing me out. So maybe I should end the broadcast. I'll deal with that. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a very good morning. Bye for now. I'm actually Tokuni Ijomi because one of the laptop is not working properly. Good morning. Bye for now.